Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney Adventures, where last episode, Mrs. Beat asked us a question that brought a reaction out of her husband. With that, we started to uncover the actions of the London Bobby that night, having moved the scene of the crime across the road onto another copper's beat in order to be able to take his wife out that night, having left a single rose meant for his wife on the Garadebs side of the street, indicating where the crime actually took place. Now we look to cement this fact in court record in what could be our turnabout moment. How many books did you move from the one side of the road to the other in total? 4 it was. Yes, sir. Definitely. 4. 3 of them dropped by Miss Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garadeb household, of course. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean. Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. How you found it? What do you mean? When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding? Oh, yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir. Interesting. The 4th book's information has now been updated in the court record. See, she did pick it up the ground. I knew it. I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only the 2 people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw what happened. But which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who'd done it, I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it. My lord. Yes, Lord Van Zieks? I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw. Yes, sir! Mr. Prosecutor, sir? What will become of my Roly? What will happen to him? For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course. Please, don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. All right then, my love. One last thing, Constable. Sir? Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime. Never again, sir? You mean to say... Leave. Now, this trial is not yet over. Sir! So the prosecutors run the show here too. Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought of a third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that? Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume, is the only person who could possibly have committed this crime. Objection. No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already. Lord Van Zieks, is this true? Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objections to the trial continuing. You will name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime. So I guess I say, of course, there was a moment where the victim, who hasn't died, we must remember that, was under the window, picking up the book, Because that's how a certain someone found it. What if she chucked more than just a book? What if she checked a letter opener? Of course we'd say Joan Garadeb.
Take that!
It's entirely what our defense hinges on. Is this just a really bad accident? The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again. My assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, it's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garadeb. Me? Oh, dearie me!
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection!
The situation is very different now. Mrs. Garadeb, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garadeb. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited. And to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Bria Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open top hinge casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, and as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just the books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garadeb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before? Ah! No, don't faint again. No. I don't recall it. Seriously? Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there in all that regalia said members of the jury needed testify, didn't he? Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all, juror number 4. Oh! Make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madame, let the truth come out. But that's just a common old garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know? What's that? Are you joking? What are you saying? Please, Mrs. Garadeb. Now you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, the poor woman. So, yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now, chop chop. Do your worst. Well, Miss Naruhodo? If I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. And take the stand, juror. Oh. The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zieks. I'm going to have to testify. Juror number 4. And I'm sure you will appreciate having observed it with your own eyes today. A witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even be aware. Have been. Oh, dearie me. So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garadeb. Unadulterated? And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels? Well, first of all, I need to be able to actually extract your words. Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Witness, state your name and occupation. Yes, my name is Joan Garadeb. And I'm a juror and such like. It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid or what anymore.
The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madame?
Yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth. Oh, dearie me. Shut up, Joni. Nothing to worry about now. Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Well, I think I ought to testify as well, don't you?
But what about your need here?
Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you are Mr. John Garadeb.
Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Numberland Fusiliers, sir. Yes, second of the 3rd and the 4th. Sure.
See my fair share of action and now living the quiet life, as it were.
The quiet life? Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question?
Ah, well, yes, quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question.
Sir, at once. Here we go. The Battle of Garadeb.
Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though and got the window open.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd noticed if 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid. If that body thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you'll have a job proving it, I think. It sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening.
Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems.
The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield, you're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment.
Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here?
Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife.
In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end. Van Zieks may well be right. Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. The last? Yes, I'm afraid so.
Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
The Battle of Garadeb.
Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now.
Hold it!
I know.
The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garadeb. A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mrs. Garadeb found the note, discovering her husband's little secret. And she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too.
What a sordid state of affairs. Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up. And besides, half of it was wide of the mark anyway.
I'd worry about that tea. A likely story. These waters run very deep.
And what transpired next after these multiple blows to the face? Tossed a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though and got the window open.
Hold it! And the fire also spread some items of furniture, didn't it?
The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine really. Just so happens there was some bath water around that evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out. A most precarious situation you put yourself in. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street, where the water main isn't connected yet. Have to draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see.
The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night. Although, that little mustached Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe. A defendant, Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off. Have you actually seen the state of the man? I believe he uses all of his income to buy books.
Well, anyway, the point is I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Hold it!
Even though the room was on fire.
As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. That is most certainly not true of a Susanna takedown, Mr. Naruhodo. How did she know I was thinking that? So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day? In all honesty, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge. A napkin.
Jupiter.
By Jupiter, the napkin of danger.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Garadeb.
Don't shoot. Sorry. I beg your pardon.
Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind?
Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker, I seem to recall.
Ouch.
And the woman's aim is uncanny. She landed a direct hit with every volley. Ah! Good grief, woman. We're not at home now. This is a court of law.
Oh, dearie me. Ever so sorry, dear. What's she even doing with a teapot in here? Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously.
Well, take a look at this then. How do you suppose that happened, huh? Your pipe, sir. Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did. Yes. And when I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage.
I see. Your pipe was broken.
Would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I've managed to bandage the thing up for now.
Ah, you are one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? I wonder what we should make of this account. Oh. Well, I mean, I guess it's important because it's something that could break it in two, so it definitely is the heavy stuff, not napkins, sponges, blatant lies. The defense believes Mr. Garadeb's remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection!
Really?
This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife and pipes as well as hearts may be broken. Sentimental wisdom perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony. Indeed. Common sense, one might say.
Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipes, sir?
Well, I don't see why not.
Oh, dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady.
Very well. The court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence.
The pipe has been entered. I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. Look, Susato, we have no issue with you butting in. You're very, very better at the job than me. In fact, you're probably very, very better at English than I am, based on the sentences of me saying very, very. So I believe in you. Let's check out this pipe. Very, very. So it's got a bit of a crack here too. There's a small nick out of the bowl here. Look, it appears to have been made relatively recently. See how there are little scrapes and dents all over it? It's clearly a well-loved pipe. Yes, you're right. It seems to me recently that being well-loved goes hand in hand with getting some battle scars. This particular nick is catching my eye though, because it's clearly new. Anything in there? Wait, there is something in there! Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. Something's stuck in there, I think. How are you smoking with that? I guess she's not really. Makes sense why the tea overflowed through the top, though. Wait, is that the reason the tea overflowed that way? Something's stuck in there, I think. Indeed. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. Tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be a fragment of metal. Might be the tip of a knife blade. I mean, I guess I should check out the obvious bit first, even though I went for every bit that wasn't the obvious bit. It looks to be in a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason, it feels slightly ominous to me, like it's trying to shout out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Garadeb's dressing gown. I suppose it must have considerable sentimental value to Mr. Garadeb, given that he's gone to the trouble of repairing it like this. Either that, or he can't afford to replace it, which is definitely the more likely thing of the scenario. Meanwhile, in the knife, are you chipped? Did we ever check? Did I ever notice? Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo. Just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. Wait, part of it's missing? I could be wrong, but I've just got a feeling. You remember this? Ah, that's the tiny fragment of metal that we found inside Mr. Garadeb's pipe. Yes, and just maybe. Oh my, it's a perfect fit. Somehow I just knew it. Oh, so we didn't get that updated though. But I think we have proof. We can 100% prove things now. Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Susato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully.
Well, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Garadeb. Now if we can return to the crux of the matter. What can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim? Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I've noticed if one or two went missing, I'm afraid. Now, what do I do here? Do I literally present this right here, right now? Because that kind of makes sense, though I guess pressing's not a bad idea as well in case that adds something that I can actually do that with. Hold it! I'll press. Sorry, would you care to elaborate? Nothing to say, really. Rather partial to a spot of carving, you see. Pipes and whatnot, fishing tackle, you know the sort of thing. It's a passion we both share. I like to carve little wooden trinkets too, and then there's my leather work. Sorry to say, we're always losing knives about the place, and we have dozens of the things. They sell them at the market sometimes. 20 for the price of 19. Needs to say I stepped them up. God prefers to use 2 knives at mealtimes too, instead of a knife and fork. Now, Joan, we don't want people thinking I'm some kind of savage. Ah! Here we go again with the scoldings. Why are they being so evasive? I imagine it's because they don't want to believe it. They can't bear the thought that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim. Which is entirely understandable, of course, but still. Go on with your testimony, witnesses. Sir! So I'm thinking there might be where I present. That body thing in the victim's back really was one of ours. You'll have a job proving anything, or it could be here. Hold it! Both are knives, one is literally to prove. So you have no intention of admitting it was your knife, unless we can produce proof.
even though there is no other credible possibility of Mr. Natsume is innocent.
Objection!
You forget, my Nipponese friend, that it is yet to be established that the accused is not responsible for the attack. As if I could forget. If only there was some way to know who had handled the knife. But I suppose wizardry like that is just a dream. Perhaps you're thinking of fingerprinting, Mr. Naruhodo? What, you mean it's not a dream? That sort of wizardry really exists? Whenever people touch anything, they leave behind a unique pattern from their skin, or so they say. But I can't see anything. There are already countries in the world where these so-called fingerprints can be used as evidence. Lord Strongheart is currently discussing the matter with the Ministry of Justice.
Yes, I believe we are rapidly approaching an era of scientific methods of investigation.
But for now, we shall have to find an alternative method of proving our assertion. But this knife found in the victim's back was originally in Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house.
Only I could transplant this whole incident to several years in the future.
That's the extent of their testimony, is it? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I think we've heard all of this before, to be honest. I can't say I'm particularly confident that we'll be able to prove anything new from this testimony. But in this cross-examination, it's absolutely essential that we establish how this knife came to be at the scene of the incident.
Yes, I know.
I'm sure both of them must be feeling very worried. Worried that it was in fact a knife belonging to one of them that caused the victim's injury. If we could find even a tiny shred of evidence to support that theory, a tiny piece even, it would clinch this trial for us. It would explain everything. Yes, it would. So for Sasaki-san's sake, we must find that last crucial piece of evidence.